Well, hey there, everybody. Brian Goulet here from Goulet Pens, and I'm here for another ink showdown. This time, it's orange inks. This is the 14th ink showdown. They weren't all called ink showdowns, but basically the 14th showing of multiple inks and comparing them to each other. And yeah, it's taken a while to get to orange. I'm sorry for all you orange fans out there, but today should be your day. Redemption. What I'm doing today, I've got 10 different orange inks, some of my favorites, some that I've never used before. So I'm going to take my opinions and share those out. I'm going to swab them all up. I have a dip pen here. This is a Pilot Iroshizuku with a medium nib, so it should emulate what a medium nib Pilot steel nib pen would look like in a fountain pen. And then I have a Kakamori dip nib, which is going to give me a big swatch. And on my paper today, I'm using, as usual, my Tomoe River 52 gram white paper. And yeah, it should be nice and smooth. And I've got them cut up into little squares. So normally you get them in bigger sheets because this is not really handy for much else other than doing what I'm doing right now. So yeah, without further ado, let's kick it off with the first ink, shall we? Pilot Iroshizuku Yu-yake. Coming out strong out of the gate with an awesome ink. Yu-yake, I mean, Pilot Iroshizuku, their bottles just look awesome. It's got that little dip down in the bottom. So if you get your ink level lower and you want to still be able to get your pen all the way down in there, you can do that. So let's take a look, shall we? Okay, Yu-yake. Now I think this is going to be, kind of a mid-orange, not super dark, not super light. It's a nice color. Not blazing bright orange. It's got a little bit of a brown tone to it. Nice balanced orange. Yeah, kind of a mid-range orange. I like it. And then let's do the dip nib. See what it looks like here. Oh yeah, I can see some of that red coming out. More of like an autumn orange. It gives me an autumn kind of feel, which, as I'm recording this right now, we are smack dab in the middle of the autumn season here in Central Virginia, where I am. So yeah, it's got nice falling leaves kind of vibes going on here. So yeah, nice looking color. I like it. So we'll set that one aside. Big fan of this. Also flows really well. Orange inks, they can be a little spotty. It depends. Some of the orange dyes are kind of weird, and we'll get to them in a minute, but I'll show some others, but that is Yu-yake. Noodler's Habanero. Now, Noodler's has several good orange inks that are all very close to each other, and I picked the top three that are pretty much always compared to each other, Habanero being one of them. This is a really nice orange. This is kind of like a little bit in the darker range than some of the others that you'll see. This is going to be a very saturated color. Boom. There's Habanero. Flows off the pen pretty nicely. I think you get some decent shading on this one. That's what I'm curious. With this color range, you're gonna get some really good shading. There's a lot of oranges that have great shading. So that is part of where my bias is gonna come from, because I love shading inks, and oranges shade really well. And it's really interesting because like most of these oranges, you're going to go from like a really yellow color to where you could have some red, you can have a lot of brown. There's some good range in oranges. Not as many orange inks are out there as there are with certain shades of blue and even pinks and stuff like that. So it's, even as I was trying to select these, there's not that many oranges that we have. I think it's like somewhere in the 20s in terms of number of oranges, which is probably more oranges than you could possibly need, but there you go, Habanero. So it's a little bit more saturated, it looks like, than Yu-yake. A little bit more red tone to it. But yeah, nice looking color. Set that aside and let it dry and keep going. Diamine Sunset. Okay, we're going with a sample on this one. I don't have a bottle on hand at the moment, but let's check it out. This is one I honestly can't remember if I've used before or not in a pen. The other ones I have. Diamine Sunset. This one looks slightly redder, right? So this is what I mean when I say there's like a kind of a range of colors on these. We don't have anything like super duper duper yellow yet, but even with Habanero, you can tell the shading is more intense because you got a lot more distinguishing between the light and the dark than even you do on Yu-yake here. So let's see how Sunset does. I anticipate this will be more of a red tone. It's not too far off from Habanero, to be honest with you. Now, there is another Noodler's ink that's going to be coming up that is more on the red side. I bet that one will be closer to Sunset. Ooh, this is a nice color. I like this. Maybe I will have to ink this up. Oh, this is really nice. Some of the oranges, if they have too much yellow in them, it can be kind of tough to read them back. You know, after you write, it really depends on what kind of nib you have, you know, you have the ink in. If you use really fine nibs with some of these lighter oranges, they start to become sort of harder to read. But when you get these darker ones that go towards a brown or towards like a more of a red color, they become a lot more readable. So those tend to be a little more of the popular oranges out there. But boy, this is a nice looking color. Definitely a little bit more on the red side, a little more saturated, not as good shading. So yeah, that's Sunset. Let's go to the next one. Sailor Shikiori Kin-mokusei. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but either way, ink is the same, no matter how bad I pronounce it. Okay, let's check this one out. This is one that I've not had a lot of experience with, so let's check it out. And I gotta look at, there's a lot to write on this one. Seems a little bit lighter. Sailor Shikiori. Kin-mokusei. There we go. Nice looking color. This is a little bit closer in color to the Yu-yake, it seems. Not as much red. But let's see what it looks like when we put it down thicker, heavier. Oh yeah, this is definitely a lighter color. Nice color. Oh, this is more of a true orange. These other ones seem like really dark and really red compared to this one. Especially Sunset and Habanero there. Nice color. I like this. This is good. So this definitely has more of a yellow tone to it, not quite as saturated, which means I would expect the shading would be kind of decent. Oftentimes, the more saturated the color, the less shading there is, though that is not always the case. I keep trying to find like one specific commonality with shading, and I can't always find it because Noodler's has some of the most saturated dyes in their inks as you can get. But then you get something like Habanero where it's like really drastic between the dark and the light. That to me is high shading. But then you have others like some of the Jacques colors that are way less saturated, but they still shade really well too. So I don't know. I think it just depends on so many different factors. Kin-mokusei. So that is less red, nicer orange. It's turning a little bit brown as it's drying. Yu-yake also has gone a little bit brown as well. So that's kind of interesting. Let's check out the next one. Noodler's Cayenne. Okay, now Cayenne I've used before. This one is going to be a little more redder. A little more redder. Wow. Brian, your language. Oh, you can already tell just looking at the cap how much redder that's going to be. How much more redder that's going to be. Got my southern coming out now. All right, so this is Noodler's. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Noodler's Cayenne. Right? That is what Cayenne? I always have to double check myself. Not a master speller, this one. But you've probably seen my other videos. You know, I'm not fooling anybody. Okay, Cayenne. Let's check it out. We're going to be red, red, red. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. My guess is this is probably going to be like one of the red. Yeah, this is probably going to be like the reddest of the bunch. Almost like, is that even orange? Yeah, it's definitely orange. It's definitely orange, but it is seriously on the red side. I think it's going to lighten up a little bit as it dries. Right now, in comparison to some of these other ones, you're like, wow, this looks really red. No, it is definitely orange. It is definitely orange. Nice color, though. I think if you were, writing with a finer nib, this would be the most readable one, because of that color, because of the darker aspect of it. Looks really nice. Looks really nice. Noodler's does a good job with their oranges. Noodler's and Diamine, they just like kill it with their oranges. So we're going to set that one aside there. Okay. Next, Diamine Pumpkin. Oh, pumpkin. I do love me some pumpkin. This is the color that I think of when I think of fall. Right here, Diamine Pumpkin. Partly because it's called pumpkin, and I always think of pumpkins in the fall. But also because it is just like the perfect fall color ink, in my opinion. So let's see. I have not used this one stacking it up to a whole bunch of other oranges before. So we're going to see how it does. Diamine, oops, I may or may not have spelled that right. Pumpkin. Okay. Nice looking orange. Ooh, yes. Oh, yes. This is like pretty classic kind of blaze orange looking thing. Hunter orange. Without the like kind of neon aspect, of course. Okay. Nice looking orange. Yeah, okay. This is like, man, I remember why I like this ink so much. It is just like a straight up pure, beautiful orange. Now, I will say from my own experience on this, you're not going to see this in here, but this is one that tends to like crust up a little bit on the nib if you leave it in your pen for a long time. I know that's the case with a lot of like pinks or pinky reds and oranges. I think there's some components, some like maybe red components in some of the dyes that makes inks want to sort of crust up on the nib. Pumpkin is one that I know tends to do that. It doesn't cause any harm to the pen at all, but it is something that's you have to be aware of. You might have to wipe the nib off every now and then if you're letting it sit for a while and it kind of dries out. Wow, I like that color a lot. Oh man, that's really cool. Okay, we got 4 more to go. Let's keep going. Atramentis Document Orange. Okay, this looks weird. Wow. I mean, all the document inks tend to look a little bit different, but it's got like this yellow stuff down in there. Now, this is a permanent ink, right? A permanent orange ink is rare because oranges don't tend to be very permanent. Now, I will say on here, there's a couple of inks that you're going to be like, why didn't you do Ancient Copper? Why didn't you do Diamine Autumn Oak? They were really brown. They were really kind of brown. So I didn't do those because I felt like they would really be a totally different color. And, you know, light me up in the comments if you think I really should have shown those. But when I was comparing them to some of these, it was like, they really don't look that similar. I was kind of going for more like blue blood, true orange range here, leaning towards yellow, a little bit of red, a little bit of brown, but not full on brown. Those ones are really more of an orangey brown. But also I've already done I did a dark brown. Maybe that's what it is. I think I'm maybe saving it for some others. Okay, so I've got this kind of mixed up in here. I don't know what is going on with this ink. It looks like paint. But a lot of the what am I saying? Diatramentis document inks, yes. A lot of them tend to look kind of opaque like this. And honestly, like the Diamine Forever inks too, kind of end up looking like that as well. So let's see. Atramentis. Wow, this looks really yellow. Document orange, right? This is going to look not orange at all compared to these other inks. This looks really, really yellow. But that's why we're doing this. Basically, if it's called orange, I feel like I need to use it in the Orange Ink Showdown, right? Wow, just look at how much that, like, how opaque that is on the nib itself. That's crazy. This is just a different ink. It's different ink. Now, this is like really water resistant, pretty light fast as well, from what I understand. Wow, this is quite yellow. This is really more of like a yellow orange. I would not call this a pure orange. But it's what they have. And it is pretty much the only like permanent orange that I could find. So we're going with it. Very, very yellow. Okay. Well, that gives you an idea of kind of what you're in for. I will say it doesn't look as odd of a color when it's down on the paper, as opposed to when it's in the bottle. It just looks crazy in the bottle, but that's how a lot of the document inks are. Seems to perform pretty well though. I'd be curious to try that on some different papers, see if it bleeds more, because that does tend to happen with some of these documents, but it's growing on me a little bit as it's drying. I will say it's darkening up a bit as it dries. It feels like it's turning slightly more orange. So we'll see how it stacks up with the rest. We got 3 more and we'll see how it shakes out. Diamine Autumn Oak. Didn't I just say I wasn't going to do Autumn Oak? Maybe it was Ancient Copper I was thinking of. Wow. I pulled these inks a while ago and then I clearly forgot which ones I put on the list. You know what? Sorry about that. We're doing Autumn Oak. Isn't that great? I think I was thinking of Ancient Copper. That one's really kind of brown. That one it's very borderline whether I would consider that one to be an orange. But Autumn Oak, I think it's going to be very brown as well because I've used this one before. So we'll see how this one stacks up. Now let's get down in here. All right. Oops. Oh yeah, this looks very different. But you know what? It's a reasonably popular color. Oh my gosh, that's supposed to be an A. There we go. Diamine Autumn Oak. This looks definitely much browner. A lot of yellow to it as well. It's a yellowish brownish orange. Yeah, let's see. Let's see what this thing looks like when it's down. I know it does shade a bit. But I feel like this is one that's also, yeah, it's just interesting. It just goes down. It looks different. It just looks different when it goes down than a lot of the other colors. It's such a weird color. I mean, I guess it's not that, I don't know. Is that weird? That looks just, it's an interesting color. There's not a lot of fountain pen inks that look this color. It's pretty wild looking. I'm going to see what this looks like when it dries, when it lightens up. Is it going to lighten? Is it going to darken? I don't know. You can never tell with these inks. It's crazy how sometimes they get darker when they dry and sometimes they get lighter. I guess it just depends on what's going on with the dyes and what kind of other stuff is mixed in there. Boy, the shading on the Habanero is really popping. Whereas like Sunset's pretty flat. The Sailor ink, it's got a little bit there. Cayenne looks very red. I knew that would be the reddest of the bunch. Very pleasant color, but it's almost like a red that's more orange than an orange that's red. Autumn Oak is just very interesting. You know, in terms of like falling leaf colors, these really kind of cover it right here, don't they? This whole gamut. All right, 2 to go. Noodler's Southwest Sunset. All right, folks. I really love Pumpkin. Southwest Sunset, though, might be my favorite orange ink. This one is definitely more on the yellow side, I will say. So that's why I'm torn, because I like Pumpkin because it is a very true orange color. But at the same time, the shading on Southwest Sunset has always been tops for me. So that's the one that I tend to use the most. Oops. It'd be nice if I could spell. Noodler's Southwest Sunset. So color-wise, it's going down a little bit more like the Atramentis Document Orange, but with a little more vibrancy to it. I'm hoping, because I haven't used this, I haven't used this like swabbing it out on Tomoe very much. So this will be a little bit new for me. I'm hoping that this thing is just going to really shine on this paper in terms of shading and whatnot, because here I am talking about how great a shader it is. And if it doesn't live up to it, then I'm going to look like a fool. But I feel pretty confident about it because this ink has been around for a while and I've used it a bunch, so I know its potential. I just hope it shows up on camera for you all enough that lives up to my experience on other papers. Definitely more on the yellow side. Not as brown as Autumn Oak, definitely not as red. So you can see here, like between the Noodler's colors, right? You've got Habanero, Cayenne, and Southwest Sunset. So you got like yellow, mid-range, and then more of a red, right? So that's why, when people talk about their favorite Noodler's oranges, these 3 are always the one that come up. And it really depends on what kind of shade of orange that you're looking for. So Habanero comes up a lot. Southwest Sunset comes a lot because of the shading, which you can't really tell until it dries, which we will do as we do the last ink. Here we go. Jacques Herbin, Orange Soleil. I guess it'd be Orange Soleil. It's a shame. I can enunciate French pretty well, but I can't remember it. I can't remember the words to use. My ancestors would be so proud, because Goulet is French. If you hadn't picked up on that, my ancestors are French Canadian. But if you go back further, it's just straight up French, right? All right, Jacques Herbin. Jacques, yeah, it's got an S on the end there. Jacques Herbin, Orange Soleil. Orange Soleil. Okay. I have really bad placement for my microphone here because like the back of the pen keeps hitting the microphone as I'm trying to write with it, which makes my handwriting look even more questionable than usual. But that's okay. Y'all are a forgiving bunch. I'm also hoping that these colors render accurately in camera because, you know, inks in this color range tend to be a bit of a challenge. Ooh. I like this. Oh, this is just a nice bright orange. Yeah, a little bit more like the Sailor, a little bit like Pumpkin. We'll see how it dries out. Oh, I like this. Now I see why I added this on the list. I was like, this seems like a bright, cheerful orange as opposed to these like brooding browns and reds. Nothing like a nice Hunter Blaze orange to throw in the mix. Orange Soleil, there we go. So I'm going to give these a minute. I'm going to let these dry. But as I let it dry, I'm going to go ahead and set up my scatter plot because that's something I thought would be fun to try. Because who doesn't love a good scatter plot, right? Since I have such incredible forethought. I thought about like getting a poster board or something like that. And I was like, yeah, you know what? We'll see. We'll see if y'all even like this concept and if I want to go. So I'm going to set up a little scatter plot here. I got to move some of these out of the way so you can see what the heck I'm writing. I'm not going to be able to fit all the inks on here, but y'all are going to get the idea. So I've got this plot here. So we're going to go like this, right? And we're going to go like this. And we got some arrows so that you know it continues. We're going to start with here, this line. I'm going to go light to dark. And then here we're going to go yellow to brown / red. And we'll put red in here somewhere. Oop. Boom. Okay? In a perfect world, I would have a bigger graph that you could fit the whole thing. But I don't. And I didn't want to run to the store just to get a poster board for this. So let's take these. Okay, some of the yellowest ones. Document Orange is pretty darn yellow. Let's see here. Let me get this. Let me get that in line there. Okay, Document Orange we got right here. And then let's see here. Southwest Sunset. A little bit darker, but a little bit more on the brown side. So I'm going to put it, you know, kind of right here-ish. This is going to end up being, you know, pretty good size. I hope I have enough room for all this. Autumn Oak, that is really brown and pretty dark. Cayenne, quite red. Quite dark as well. Would you consider Cayenne darker than Autumn Oak? That's tough. I'm going to put that one, well, it's pretty dark. It's right here. Okay, so this is darkness. That's redness, brownness. Let's see here. Orange Soleil, still drying a little bit. That is quite orange. So that's going to be kind of like in the middle here. And yeah, I think Southwest Sunset is a little more on the yellow side. This is not working out well. Okay, there's the orange. Goodness. Okay, Kin-mokusei. So this is right in this range somewhere. Okay. I think I need to make this graph way bigger. Hey, look at that. Movie magic. Made it bigger. Get my mouse out of the way.